Hello. Thank you for visiting the Truth About Cheating channel. October 25th became a pivotal day in my life due to two events. On this day, my test results confirmed stage 4 cancer, which I was mentally prepared for. What I certainly did not expect, however, was catching my wife Sarah in bed with another man. My name is Robert, and at the time of these events, I was 56 years old. Sarah was 47. We had been married for over 25 years, and up until that fateful day, I considered her a good wife and mother to our children. When we first met, Sarah had just graduated from college and started working at the law firm where I was employed. I was the department manager back then, and she became my assistant. We spent a lot of time together because of work. Our work meetings gradually turned into dates, dates turned into cohabitation, which soon led us to marriage and children. It all happened so naturally and effortlessly that infidelity never crossed my mind. Just imagine my state when, after receiving the terminal cancer diagnosis that same day, I learned of Sarah's lover. She knew nothing about my illness. I didn't want to worry her until I had some answers, so I decided to talk to her in person when I got home. Near the house, I noticed an expensive car belonging to one of my business partners parked outside. Our outdoor security cameras were turned off, which struck me as odd. We lived in a neighborhood prone to robberies, so we had surveillance cameras installed all around the property. Using a special phone app, I switched the cameras on and began watching what was happening inside. That's when I saw Sarah in my partner's embrace. They were passionately kissing on our living room couch, undressing each other. In an instant, all my love for her vanished, as if we hadn't been married for 25 years. I experienced a range of emotions from confusion to hatred and couldn't find any explanation for her behavior. I'm certain I'm not to blame here. I was a faithful and caring husband throughout our marriage. I could have barged into the house and punched her lover, or kicked Sarah out and filed for divorce. But my birthday was in a week. On this day, all our kids and grandkids come together, and I didn't want to miss what would probably be my last chance to spend time with the whole family. I wanted to create precious memories with my children and grandchildren. So I decided to get back at my unfaithful wife differently, by playing the role of a loving father, grandfather, and devoted husband, only to eventually reveal her betrayal at the right moment. So the kids and grandkids would know about it and not repeat her mistakes. Until then, I resolved to tell no one. So I started preparing. I reviewed my will and prenup with a lawyer. The prenup stated that any premarital assets do not constitute communal property. When Sarah and I married, we were both well off and financially independent. She had a great salary and good pension prospects, plus she inherited a lot from her parents. From the very beginning, at her insistence, we agreed not to disclose full information about our net worth to each other. But as it turned out, I provided for our household, paid the utilities, transportation, groceries, and gas bills. I fully supported her. Meanwhile, she spent her income and wealth on herself, bought a car, clothes, traveled at her own expense. On the outside, she may seem generous, but her actions showed the opposite. A few days after the diagnosis, I decided to quit my job. When I announced it, I noticed Sarah seemed a little nervous. I guessed why. Now I would be home more often, and she wouldn't be able to bring her lover over. I shared the camera footage with my lawyer and started devising an exit plan. No one knew the exact amount of my net worth except my accountants. I led a modest lifestyle and over the years, accumulated enough funds for my grandchildren. Sarah won't get anything after our divorce, the paperwork for which my lawyer started preparing. I had a clear contingency plan in place for worsening health or sudden death. I also arranged for at-home care when needed, but Sarah won't be my caregiver. If I become unable to make decisions on my own, my lawyer will inform the kids and grandkids about the inheritance. After quitting my job, I spent the entire following week leading up to my birthday observing my wife's behavior, trying not to give away my awareness of her affair. She acted normal, lots of smiles, laughter, even compliments for me. No one would suspect such a sweet woman led a double life. The only thing that could raise suspicion was how often she stepped outside to make calls, no doubt to her lover. I patiently awaited my birthday when I planned to tell the whole family the ugly truth about their mother. The celebration fell on a Saturday, and on Friday night, the kids started arriving with their families. My eldest daughter Emma came first with her husband Jake and their kids, Sophia and Noah. Next followed my younger son Michael with his wife Claire and their boys Liam and Aiden. Finally, my nieces, cousins, aunts and uncles showed up. The house filled with a big noisy crowd, children's laughter everywhere, adults chatting excitedly. As always, Sarah graciously plied everyone with food and drinks. On Saturday morning, the kids woke me up with congratulations and presents. Breakfast had a warm, cozy feeling as we caught up on news and plans. Then the whole crew went for a walk in a nearby forest. I hadn't felt this alive and happy in a long while. The evening saw a festive dinner with cake and champagne. I watched tenderly as Emma and Michael gave touching speeches in my honor. It truly was a magical day that I'll forever cherish as one of the best moments in my life, not only because it may be my last birthday surrounded by family, but also because the whole truth about my wife finally came out. When everyone gathered in the living room with champagne glasses, I stood up and called for attention. My dear ones, thank you so much for this wonderful celebration and your kind words. You have no idea how much it means to me, especially now. I began. I have some important news you should know about. Firstly, I was recently diagnosed with late-stage 4 cancer. My announcement was met with grave silence. Shock and grief showed on people's faces, some unable to hold back tears. I briefly recounted the doctor's prognosis, that I didn't have long left, and wanted to dedicate all my remaining time to my family. The kids and grandkids peppered me with questions about treatments, but I refused. Unsure exactly how much time I had, I didn't want to waste it battling cancer. All I wanted was to leave my loved ones with beautiful memories. And of course, reveal the whole truth about Sarah. There is also something else you need to know. Over the past few weeks, I learned that Sarah, my wife and your mother, has been cheating on me. I have irrefutable evidence of her affair with my former business partner. My lawyer is currently preparing divorce papers. I believe you have a right to know. All eyes turned to Sarah. She sat pale-faced, completely shocked. And that is how I disclosed this painful truth to my nearest and dearest. That's not true, she exclaimed, jumping up. Robert, how could you smear me like this in front of the whole family? I never had an affair. I was always faithful to you. She looked around desperately seeking support. Kids, you know me. I would never betray your father. This is some horrible lie. Mom, calm down. Let's sit and talk, Emma said gently. No, I won't listen to these insane accusations. Sarah was hysterical. Your father must have lost his mind because of the illness. Or he simply went mad with jealousy and made it all up. She kept frantically denying her guilt. Tears streamed down her face, her voice shaking. It was a convincing but false show of innocence. I took out my phone with the security camera footage, ready to present irrefutable evidence. With some trepidation, I hit play. The video clearly showed Sarah passionately kissing my business partner on our couch. They were visibly aroused, hurriedly removing clothes. A collective gasp of shock and outrage ensued. Sarah jumped up, covering her mouth. Her face flushed red. "Oh God, this is awful. I can't watch," Emma sobbed, turning away. Her husband Jake held their shaken children. Michael silently stood up and walked to the window, staring outside vacantly. The other relatives whispered angrily amongst themselves. When the video ended, Sarah collapsed onto a chair, hiding her face in her hands. Her shoulders heaved with sobs. No one dared break the silence. This was the biggest drama in our family's history. I sighed heavily, feeling drained after the revelation. After that exposure, the festive atmosphere lay hopelessly ruined. People trickled out, bidding me tense, dry farewells. Their eyes held bitterness, disappointment, and pity. Sarah locked herself in the bedroom, refusing to emerge or speak to anyone. The next morning, the house stood empty. Everyone had left for their cities. I felt emotionally depleted, but that emptiness brought relief. Now I could dedicate my free time to myself. I packed my things, stocked up on groceries, and drove to my old farmhouse outside the city, a quiet, secluded place amidst forests and meadows. I wanted to enjoy nature and live as I pleased. For the first few days, the phone rang incessantly. It was Sarah. But I ignored all her calls and pleading messages to hear her out, to let her explain herself and beg for forgiveness. I had no desire to listen or discuss any of it. I simply reveled in the peace and solitude. After a week alone at the farm, though, Emma called urging me to meet with Sarah. Apparently our mother was terribly upset and remorseful, fallen into depression. For my daughter's sake, I agreed to a brief meeting. The three of us gathered at a cafe. My wife looked pale and haggard. Clearly she hadn't been sleeping or eating well these past days. The moment she saw me, she desperately started babbling explanations and apologies. But I stopped her with a gesture. "No need, Sarah. I didn't come here to listen to your excuses. Just answer me honestly. Why? What did I do wrong over all our years together that you betrayed me?" Sarah lowered her gaze and quietly explained that her lover had promised her a lavish life abroad, yachts, expensive clothes, and everything she dreamed of. She was enchanted by his charm and generous gifts, but didn't plan on leaving the family. She simply wanted to feel young and desired again, though she'd never abandoned me over a fleeting affair. After that pathetic justification, Sarah broke down sobbing and begging me to forgive her, even offering couples therapy if I wanted. But her words held only selfishness and remorse born of fear of being left with nothing rather than sincere regret over the betrayal. I shook my head and stated firmly that I wanted a divorce. Sarah's reaction surprised me. Instead of feigned repentance, genuine anger flared up in her eyes. "You're the selfish one, Robert," she blurted out. "Instead of fighting for my attention, you chose to publicly disgrace me in front of a whole family. And for what? A fleeting fling that meant absolutely nothing." I was stunned by such audacity. A fleeting fling? That lover was promising you a lavish life abroad. So what? Sarah snapped back. "Those were just fantasies. You know how much I love to daydream. In reality, I wouldn't have left you all, but you just had to stage this humiliating spectacle." Clearly, further discussion was pointless. Sarah didn't even intend to acknowledge her guilt and let me go that easily. I waved my hand in disappointment and walked out of the cafe, leaving her shouting angrily after me. After that disastrous meeting, I returned to my secluded sanctuary at the farm where I could enjoy peace and quiet and do as I pleased. I tidied up the house and land, took forest walks, read books, admired nature, and regretted nothing. The kids and grandkids took turns visiting daily, bringing groceries and medications, helping around the house. We talked a lot, walked the surrounding areas, played board games in the evenings. It brought me true joy and serenity. In the meantime, my lawyer worked on the divorce paperwork and transfer of my entire inheritance to the children and grandchildren. By law, Sarah wasn't entitled to anything post-divorce. Soon, the marriage was officially dissolved. I felt relief having cast off the burden of betrayal. Moreover, I felt grateful that my final months or years would be spent enveloped in the love and care of my family. As for Sarah, she disappeared after the divorce. Her reputation around town took a nosedive as rumors of her infidelity quickly spread. Upon learning of her affair, people politely asked her to step down from all leadership positions. Even her friends were harsh, openly asking if she had pursued their husbands too. She made several attempts to reach out, but I didn't respond. I simply asked to relay that I said everything I wanted to say and knew everything I needed to. I couldn't care less. I just wanted to spend my dying days in peace. Dear listener, if you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, and consider subscribing to the channel for more content.